Hey, what's up everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so got some new rumors to mull over. Probably will not take place. Rumors that most definitely will get us through this week or at least the next 10 days, because that's the whole point of all of this. Give us a bunch of information to dream about to get us through the summer until there's basketball to play. So this was a rather big one because it involved Kevin Durant once again, and it has him going to the Eastern Conference finalist Boston Celtics. Um, the deal that's been offered by the Celtics to the Nets had Jaylen Brown, Derek Wright, and a first headed to Brooklyn for KD. That was declined, but they're going to stay on the phone. Essentially, what I figured out through the trade tracker is that you can get the deal done mathematically with Joe Harris and Kevin Durant headed to Brooklyn, with with Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Marcus Smart headed back to the Nets. Now that is something that I think has probably already been countered, and I think the Nets want draft compensation on top of that. And I don't know that Joe Harris was actually involved in the deal, so maybe there's a different way they could throw in the 18 mil without giving up Joe Harris. But um, I'm intrigued by the rumor, even though, like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't think anything's going to happen anytime soon. But it would be great if this happened just to get the ball rolling with trades. Um, and it sets us up real nicely for a Laker versus Celtics conversation all season long. Not to say that those teams are going to meet up in the end, because I don't know that that would be the case. I don't have both of them coming out of the West just yet if those deals are done. But what I can say is it surely does set us up for something special between LeBron James and Kevin Durant in Boston and Los Angeles. Um, of course, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant going up against one another again after last year's situation. LeBron James and Kevin Durant going up against one another once again, like Cleveland and Warriors. And there's just so many different storylines that can set you up for a whole lot to love about the rivalry. Plus, Kevin Durant, I think in a Celtic uniform is pretty interesting because he's one of the all-time greats. Um, and he really hasn't played for an organization like that it has winning aspirations. Um, with respect to OKC, because they were building something special when he was there, they couldn't get it done. And of course, with Golden State, my mind just slipped. Pay no attention to what I said. But the point is, an organization that's known for their winning, Golden State has just picked up that and are taking it forward. But they didn't have it always in my lifetime. We're talking about an organization like the Boston Celtics, who have 17 NBA championships and just was in the finals a couple months ago. So when you talk about great organizations that you want to see Kevin Durant go to, if he can't land in Golden State, if he has no interest in landing with the Lakers, I think for what it is that he's trying to do, Boston's a damn good place to go. Damn good. Because what it is that I think he's going to bring to the Boston Celtics, of course, is elite scoring, which is something that they were missing last year. With respect to Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, I love those guys, but they are combo scorers. They do a lot of other things for you. They don't just score. Some nights they're going to give you 30, other nights they may only give you 20. KD's not that guy. Obviously, we know him to be arguably the most prolific scorer in NBA history. And so, I think if you let go of Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown, what you've definitely given up is great defense. And what Jaylen Brown brought to the table for the Celtics that they probably shouldn't be willing to let go of is that pressure on the rim that we always talk about. He, driving at the basket, created a dynamic for the Boston Celtics that made it so that they had as much success as they did against some of the teams that they were struggling against. He draws fouls. He creates opportunities for others by continuing to drive. And that role that he was in as the second guy, I think really fit him very well. Even though some could argue he's better than Jason Tatum, including myself, I've argued that he's just as good, not better necessarily. But I think he's just as good. He was just a year behind in his development based on the roles that he had coming into the league with the Celtics, of course. So the thing about the Celtics, I'll say the same thing about the Warriors. If it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, they got to the finals. They have the best defense in the Eastern Conference, obviously. I don't think it's arguable at that point. I think they have the best defense in the East. And their team is young enough to keep doing it. They got a deep team full of players that they have on contract for multiple years. There's really no reason to think that they can't come back and be the best team in the Eastern Conference next year without making a move like this. However, when you look at what Jaylen Brown does have on tab, which is a 2-year deal, and you hear the rumblings about him not being happy in Boston, even if it's cap, you hear it. It does make you wonder if he's going to sign his extension with the Boston Celtics or re-up with the Boston Celtics at the end of that 2-year span. I don't know if there's a player option or something like that. I'm not aware. But the point is, they can only guarantee themselves 2 years of Jaylen Brown. That's this year and then half of next year, because then you have to make a decision to trade him at the deadline next year because of it. So if for some reason they don't think they can keep Jaylen Brown, you get to trade for Kevin Durant on a 4-year deal. You don't have to negotiate with Kevin Durant. That situation is straightened out for 4 years. So I understand the wisdom behind that, and I think other teams should be thinking that way as well. If you got guys you can't keep, guys you don't think are going to stay, maybe you should pull a San Antonio like they did with DeJounte and send him out. So I think that's what they're thinking here. They've been listening to the chatter. They've seen he's not 100% happy, or seems not 100% happy, and I think they think it's probably a good idea to cash out. So if that's the logic, I'm on board if I'm Boston. Marcus Smart is a player that's a mainstay on your team. 4-year deal, $17 million. If you can keep him out of this deal, do so. Period. I don't want him in this deal if I'm the Boston Celtics. Ain't no way in hell I'm putting Marcus Smart in this deal. I'm going to tell you why. Because we done been through so much with Marcus Smart. He has come back to the Celtics on different types of discounts when the markets have been kind of weird for him, and it's worked out. They've had him in trade rumors over the years that never happened, and he continues to get better in the role that they give him. I don't know how many point guards in this league can play the role that he's playing, get Defensive Player of the Year, and be happy in that role without leaving the team that they're on. I don't think too many players have even had that role in this era. And when you couple the fact that he was a lottery pick, you couple with the fact that now he's starting to accumulate accolades, just like the Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he's done yet. I'm not sure that Marcus Smart on a 4-year deal at $17 million isn't one of the best values in basketball right now, based on what you're going to ask him to do. Now, if you put the ball in his hands, tell him to be your point guard like Chris Paul, that's not what you're asking him to do. That's not good. But if you have the role for him to play a Patrick Beverley role, to play Marcus Smart's role, with other guards being the ball handlers, other players doing all the other stuff, and he can just focus on what it is that he's great at, I think he's going to be an all-star before this is over with. I don't think we've seen the best from Marcus Smart. I really don't. He's one of the more trustworthy players that I find in the league, so long as you're not asking him to shoot all the time. If he's not being asked to shoot all the time, he's a Draymond, he's a glue guy, someone I trust. So if I'm the Boston Celtics, I'm trying to keep him out of this deal. Simple and plain. But if it comes down to it, yes, I will pull the trigger and let go of Marcus Smart. Yes, I will. But I'm telling you that I'm gonna do everything I can to keep from doing so. Everything. So I'll let that be known. And Derek White on a 3-year, $15 million deal. You throw that in to match the numbers. You like Derek White. He did some good things in the playoffs. He did some not so good things in the playoffs. But what you can say is Derek White is a highly talented player who we haven't seen the best from. We've seen some really good things from him in San Antonio that we didn't see in Boston with the role he was given. And I think if you give him a bigger role than what Boston's capable of giving him, he's going to be great for you within the things that he does well. He's limited to a degree, but he's very, very good. And now that you're bringing in Malcolm Brogdon, you can see where there won't be the same role for him. You got Peyton Pritchard coming up fast behind his tail. Other guys that I think they've drafted as well that I'm not familiar with some guards that they're really excited about. I just think that Derek White's role changes this year, and at $15 million, you don't really need him this year like you did last year. Now, if something happens to Malcolm Brogdon, which is likely, unfortunately, because he's injury prone as hell, then you probably wish you still had Derek White, especially since you're giving up Marcus Smart in the same deal in theory. But again, Peyton Pritchard, like I said, is capable of stepping forward. I know Peyton's ready to have a bigger role. He's a fantastic player, and he just needs the opportunity to do that. And if you don't want him to have that role, I think Peyton Pritchard has some good trade value as well, and you can get somebody who can. Maybe even bring back Dennis Schroeder or something if you have an issue like that. But I'm not letting Derek White certainly keep this trade from happening. I'm going to be honest with you. I do think this is a rumor that probably won't take place, but this does look like a deal that makes sense if the Nets are not asking for like 8 and 9 picks. You know what I mean? Jaylen Brown should supplement a good portion of pick equity, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm trading Jaylen Brown for pick equity, I'm going to want 3 picks for Jaylen Brown off a rip. And that's not even in this climate. In this climate, I probably want 4 or 5 picks for Jaylen Brown. So that should tell you that the Nets probably aren't going to be able to demand 6 picks for KD in this deal. I don't think so. I don't think so. I'll be very surprised if they get more than 3 picks in this deal. 3 picks, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and 2 other players on the team should get it done. Now, Grant Williams is also a player that could be mentioned in this deal. I should have given you his numbers and years. I didn't check because I just wouldn't trade him if I'm the Boston Celtics. How do I make sense of my thought? Grant Williams is untouchable if I'm the Boston Celtics. Now, that doesn't mean that if Derek White is included in this deal, I'm going to be shocked or cussing or something like that, because I'm really not. But if I'm the Boston Celtics and I'm thinking about the team that I want to have when KD gets here, I'm letting go of Jaylen Brown. I'm letting go of Marcus Smart in theory. I'm letting go of Derek White. You don't want to give up too much defense. No one knows better than the Boston Celtics that good defense can neutralize Kevin Durant in certain circumstances. No one knows that better. They were the ones who neutralized him. Those were the players who stopped him. So what you don't want to do is acquire him and give away all the players that can stop him. Because then you're giving those players to another team who's going to throw those players back at you to stop him. So what you don't want to do is give up Grant Williams. Grant Williams is this fail-safe for all things defensive on this team when you give up Marcus Smart, which I think is possible, like I said. So, no, Grant Williams is a guy that at any given moment can hoist up 7 threes in a playoff game and win me a game, while throughout the rest of the series, not scoring at all and defending the best player at a stifling pace. That right there is not a trait you trade. You know who comes to mind when I think of stuff like that? Robert Horry. That's who comes to mind. That's exactly who comes to mind. He don't play like Robert Horry at all. They're different players. But that's the same kind of thing. You get all the way to June, and he wants to hit like 7 and 8 threes. Like, you get all the way to when it matters the absolute most, and suddenly he turns into an Hall of Famer. That's what I see in Grant Williams. And I think a lot of what happened there with him not scoring as much was him not being asked to score as much. Because when the coach asked him to score, he lit it up. So that tells you right there, a player like that is durable. He looks like he doesn't ever get hurt. One of the toughest people on the planet is, if you ask me. I'm not giving him away for nothing. And I don't care that there are players better than him. Do you understand what I mean? Like, it's not about that. It's about no matter what I'm doing, I want him a part of it. That's kind of how that goes. So there's a such thing as value in that way, to where I got a player that I know fits what it is that I'm doing, and I'm not moving it. So if another player that's 10 times better than him comes along, he's not involved in that deal. I'll give away everything else to keep from having to give away that piece. That's Grant Williams in my mind. Ain't no way in hell. I'm not giving it away. But I have heard that he's involved in this trade rumor. So if he does go to Brooklyn, it's a good thing on Sean Marks to pry him away from Boston. He should definitely try just the same. Maybe even demand him in this deal, if I'm being completely clear. So that's where I'm at with that. That would be a real struggle for me. But all in all, 4 years of Kevin Durant is worth a lot, man, to say the least. And the word on the street is he's talking about holding out. That's what I was. That's what I picked up on this morning, listening to some people talking. I think it was Ticket TV who said that KD is now officially putting the word out that this trade needs to happen. Okay, period. You guys need to do this. So, I think getting back Jaylen Brown will make me happy. I never thought that Jaylen Brown would be available. That's why I figured that the best trade possible for Kevin Durant would ultimately come back around to the Lakers and Anthony Davis, right? Because that's the only star that I thought would be out there that they would be willing to make this move without so much trade equity coming back their way. or getting them what it is that they're asking for, more exact. I think Jaylen Brown is excellent for this. And I think when you look at what he's going to be over the next several years, especially if you put him in a star role, even though I think he's better than number 2, if you put him in Brooklyn, where he'll probably be number 1, or, well, no, he'll be Ben Simmons number 2, or however they want to figure that out. But the point is, what you're bringing in is a guy who I think is going to make many, many, many All-Star teams before it's over with. Just an excellent young player who's already proven himself in big moments, who's already proven himself to be worthy of the big moment. And I think a great deal has to be done in regards to him working on his ball handling. As we saw, he still has more development to go, believe it or not. But he's already a star player, and he's durable. He's going to help you, and you could feel real good about your future in terms of bringing him in and making him one of your best players. And if for some reason, as we always say, you want to move on from him, you can flip him for a very, very, very good package going forward. Probably even a better one than what you got him for right now, given what the situation's about to be. So I like this for the Nets if they do it. I think it's about as good a deal as I've seen, within reason, of course. And I'd consider it depending on the pick equity that comes back my way from the Nets. Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart is definitely intriguing for Kevin Durant, of whom is an older guy, you know what I mean, who, even though he's on a 4-year deal, you don't really know how he's going to feel 2 years from now. In his 30s, you just don't know if the Achilles injury will come back around and slow him down or something. You just don't know. So if I'm a Nets fan, I'm a little sad that I'm letting Kevin Durant don't want to be here no more, et cetera, et cetera. But to a degree, if I'm paying close enough attention to what's going on, I understand that this situation ain't really going to work. It's not going to work because these guys just ultimately do not want to be here for whatever set of reasons. We got Ben Simmons on the sideline. We're not sure how long it's going to take for him to be 100%. But I think a lot of people are banking on him being 100% right away. And I just don't think that's a smart bet. I really don't. You got to allow for some time for him to heal his back. Never mind the mental stuff. The back. It was surgically repaired to some degree. And from what is been said, the back could have been aggravated by stress. Like that could have been the catalyst for why the back was hurt. So if he has mental concerns that are affecting him physically, that have already required him to have surgery, and you're bringing him back directly after that, you need to understand that the chances of him feeling stressed once again in this circumstance is high because this is a stressful circumstance. So for me, if I'm the Nets and I want to keep Ben Simmons, I want to remove the stress from his timeline until he's ready to take it on. Or if I'm going to provide the win now stress that comes with this situation, I'm going to make sure he's ready for it, however best to confirm that. And if not, I'm shipping him out. And so that's really what it comes down to. If you bring in Jaylen Brown, of course, Jaylen wants to win now, but it ain't the same as KD. It ain't the same. Even though Jaylen, I respect, just was in the finals just now, Marcus Smart, those guys were just in the finals. You bring them to the Nets right now, I don't think they expect to make the finals this year. That's a good thing for the Nets because you need Ben Simmons to get a year under his belt to feel those pressured moments, to get the back right, to remember what type of talent he provides himself on the basketball floor, to get to fall a few times, you know what I mean, just to feel the pressure of physical contact once again. And then to see if he's going to make see if his talent still stands out amongst the field when you got guys like Paolo Banchero who are his size who can shoot. You understand what I'm saying? His value changed, just like I said about Kevin Durant. Not Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, not Kevin Durant. Anthony Davis's value has fluctuated some because of the influx of the Holmgrens and the Mobleys and all these other guys that are kind of like him who are much younger than him. It just changes how rare you are. And Ben Simmons is now in a place where even though his size and his athleticism and his passing ability is phenomenally masterful and all the good things that he does is really, really serious. Now you got guys coming in that are his size with his athleticism who can score, who can shoot. Look at that Paolo dude is the best example. He's Ben Simmons with a jumper. Now he can't defend like Ben, which is why Ben is still going to be a standout athlete, standout player in this league. But he's his value ain't unicornish like it was when he was drafted. You know, it's just the Zions are here, the Scotty Barnes here. You got too many of these little dudes coming into the league now who are not so little, to say the least, who are very, very talented, who can also do the things that he does. He can pass the ball just fine. These guys are really, really gifted. So now it's about finding out who Ben Simmons is in this market, right? Since everybody else's values fluctuated, Russell Westbrook's on the ground, you know. Last time Ben Simmons was out there, we understood him to be an elite talent who had just had some issues and stuff, and his game wasn't necessarily good enough in terms of shooting the ball. But everything else, we knew, elite. And 9 out of 10 times, he's faster, stronger, and bigger than everybody else. Well, now he gonna step on the floor, and they're gonna be his equals out there physically. You're gonna be looking over. They're gonna be dudes out there who are gonna be moving around just as fast as him, just as tall and strong as him, just as defensive as him. And he has deficiencies that they don't have. So when you learn who he's going to be, then you can start to reevaluate what you need him to be. And so that's how I look at it. But he's going to have to work that shooting into his game, man. And all athletes need to understand that your value fluctuates every single time a new draft class comes in, especially if they got body types like yours and strengths that you have. Now you've got to understand you've been saturated. It's like pouring water on the liquor. Now it's not as potent no more. It ain't liquor at all. Now it's just water. So you must stay on top of your game, keep your conditioning up, and most importantly, always work on them weaknesses. So that's what comes to mind there, man. Got to see what Ben Simmons is going to be. Then from there, know if he's going to be a number 1 or number 2 next to Jaylen Brown. I don't really love the fit, by the way, so I'm probably moving Ben Simmons if I'm bringing in Jaylen Brown, just for the record. I don't love the fit because they don't stretch the floor like that. Jaylen's not good enough of his three-point shooter to make him Ben's best running mate, in my opinion. So all of that being said, Kevin Durant going to Boston. Do what you got. Malcolm Brogdon, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Robert Williams is not mentioned in this deal. That's a hell of a team, man. That team should still very much be at the top of the Eastern Conference. I don't love the depth the same way I love last year's depth, but now teams are going to have to score 120 points to beat you, and that's going to be interesting to see. Your defense is going to suffer. I like Kevin Durant as a defender. He's always been a good defender, but he's not going to provide the same defensive intensity as a combination of Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart or Grant Williams or whatever you have to give up. Best believe you're going to be gutting yourself with a lot of defense. You're still probably going to have Al Horford. Like I said, Peyton Pritchard may still be there. But then again, understand that there's going to have to be probably 2 other role players not mentioned on top of Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Derek White. That will probably be going. Maybe that's Peyton Pritchard. Maybe that's Grant Williams. Maybe that's, you know what I mean? It's no real way of knowing just yet. If for some reason this deal gets done, who else is headed to Brooklyn? Or even more so, if Joe Harris is involved in the deal, would he be heading back to Boston? And if that's the case, you're working through the equation even more shooting and less defense. So it's a lot of things to consider. I think with a deal like this, the logical thing is to think a third team would probably be involved as well. So different players from different teams could come through and make this make more sense. So yeah, that's what we're looking at, man. That's the situation. Hopefully this isn't just cap and we can see something actually happen so that these players can finally get moved and then we can see other things happen. Me personally, I'm ready for my team, the Lakers, to kind of know who we are. So I think once we see Kevin Durant moved, it's very logical that Kyrie will be moved as well. I don't know what the relationship is between Kyrie Irving and Jaylen Brown. I know they had time in Boston, and I know there was reports, as if I trust any reports involving Kyrie's name, but reports said he didn't necessarily get along with all the players. So I don't know if Jaylen was one of them dudes. I have no idea. But what I can say is there's history there. So if for some reason they don't trade Kyrie Irving, they bring in Jaylen Brown, there's something to look at. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know. But most importantly, I'd expect that they would then trade Kyrie after making a trade for Kevin Durant. But, you know, in situations like this, man, when you got people behind the scenes telling you what you should not do from the media side of things, you got people suggesting certain things, I really don't know what Sean Marks is going to do. If you make a trade for Kevin Durant, the logical thing is to then trade Kyrie Irving, but sometimes people don't do the logical thing. Sometimes it's like, well, Kevin's gone, okay. Kyrie's on, so let's see if we can keep him for the start of the season, just to be spiteful. I've seen people do stuff like that. And they know that the player doesn't want to be there, but they're holding all the cards, so they want to hold on to him for a little longer, just out of spite. So I don't know if they're going to try something like that with Kyrie, but it stands to reason we've seen people do it before. So just throw that out there. At any rate, what I hope that they will do is, of course, relieve him of his tenure with the Nets and move him on to the LA Lakers so he can compete for a championship and put that era behind him, and then they can do the same or whatever they're going to do and put that era behind them. I think that fans probably mixed all over the place in regards to this. I wouldn't want Kyrie Irving walking out of my organization at all, personally. Just like I want to welcome him into mine, I wouldn't want him to leave the Nets if I were a Nets fan. And that's just what it is. That's just what it is. So I don't know how I would feel if I were a Nets fan. I really don't. I haven't given much thought to that. For all I know, I'd probably want Sean Marks gone. Just because I'm pissed off at all this nonsense. KD's leaving? What is this? What do you mean? KD's leaving and Kyrie's leaving, and you brought me a hurt Ben Simmons, and I'm supposed to want all of you to stay? Like, a part of me wants all of them gone if I'm a Brooklyn fan. So I don't know how y'all feel, but it's not the players that I want out the door. First of all, you know what I mean? The mandate and that whole situation, it depends on how I feel about that. It's like, if I'm on the side of, he should sacrifice for the team like Wiggins, then I'm mad at Kyrie. If I listen to Andrew Wiggins regrets his decision, even though he got a championship, started the All-Star game and all that. He said that he wished he would have taken it. So that's interesting there. And then you look at the situation and you just say, okay, well, a lot of people feel a lot of different ways, but at the end of the day, a lot of people who didn't take the vaccine still breathing just fine. So it's one of those situations where it's like, all right, is it a control thing? You just want to control someone? And if you are on the side of control the athlete, then you just kind of want to see people do what it is you want them to do, regardless if it's take a vaccine or stand on their head and say the ABCs. At the end of the day, in my mind, the ability to choose is something that either comes to you or the people above you. You see what I'm saying? It's like someone's choosing. So either it's you making that choice or another human being or entity or think tank making the choice for you. The point is the choice is being made. I would like the right to make it for myself. And so I've always stood on that. I also understood that there was an understanding that there was a perfect storm to where you have to forego that because of the nature of what it is we're fighting against. If I don't take it, I get sick, I hurt grandma, I can be fine, etc. That kind of dynamic makes it so that you have to forego your stance on your willingness to not take it. You have to consider what it means to be a walking time bomb for someone else. So I understood the logic behind both sides. And with the logic being in place, we should all agree that saving lives is ultimately what we should be after. However, how best to do that may not necessarily be agreed upon, including whether or not the shot is the way to go. So with that being said, I didn't surmise I came to any conclusion, therefore I shouldn't be forcing anybody to do anything, whether it be agreeing with me or not. So with that being said, I just kind of left it alone at the time. Looking at it now, I understand that it didn't play out so well for the team. And so with everybody now looking at everything that has to happen from here, regardless if you agreed with Kai's point of view or not, if you're a fan, you just understand that your team had a chance to win a championship. James Harden was in place and bolted and all of that. And so it's a lot of different ways to feel depending on how you felt about the choice made. But as somebody who just did not like the idea of being forced to do something, forced to put something in my body, I understood where Kyrie was coming from. So with that being said, the consequences of his choice now has to fall back on him. And this is part of it. So all of this going on, I think KD was trying to help along. So I said, okay, well, let's just help him get some money. Let's get him paid. It's my brother, and I see what stance he's taking. I see the reaction the world is taking to him, or half the world anyway, and the media, not so favorable. His value's going down. He's too talented for this. I want to play with this guy because I think I can win with this guy. I want to play with him for the next 5 years too, so let's get him paid and let's keep on winning. And the Nets just didn't see the fruit in that. Maybe they're afraid the mandate may come back. And they're concerned that they can lose seasons in the future with this situation. And I think a lot of times, as I said, people just want to control people. When you have people you can't control, you don't know where that begins or where that ends. So if I got you under contract and you don't want to take the vax today, tomorrow you may just show up and decide you don't want to play basketball. Maybe you come to the middle of the court and just sit down. And, you don't know where it ends or where it begins. So I get the concern with the lone wolf behavior of a Kyrie Irving. But at the same time, it's like, well, all right, if you have that much of a problem with it, cool, let him go. That's all it is. It's like, all right, if somebody's doing something I can't get with it, they have to get up out of my business. It's not even a tug of war. It's not about whether or not we fighting over this. No. Move on. And that's where I guess it's gotten tricky. So, some people want to move on. Some people want to hold on for reasons that make sense. Maybe some that don't. So that's my take on the Brooklyn situation. If I were a fan, I just want all this out the way. I just want this out the way. I don't want none of this. None of this. You know what I mean? Like, what I want is Victor Wembanyama if I'm the Nets, to be completely honest with you. All these people get the hell out of here and give me the first pick in the draft. And let's start the process over. So, yeah, man, I suppose that's how I would really feel. And I wouldn't be so sure about Steve Nash, just looking at the situation. I know he was a rookie coach last year. I don't think he was given the fairest situation, given the fact that he inherited all that talent as a rookie coach, which does kind of concern me about Darvin Ham's situation in a way, but never mind that. But I think year 2, without all of these superstars, could be a good thing for Steve Nash. Bringing in Jaylen Brown, getting KD and Kyrie out of there. Yeah, that could be a much more palatable coaching experience for him. So that's what I think needs to happen, man. I think the Nets have heaped too much pressure on people in certain situations there with Ben Simmons and Steve Nash particularly. It's just too much pressure on them to keep up with stuff, the timelines that force them to win, in my opinion. They're not ready for that. Neither one of them within their respective positions on that team. So the Nets need to reset that timeline to fit that, or get rid of those guys and bring in something that fits what it is they want to do. So, yeah, that's what I got to say, man. These videos run longer than usual, but when we start talking about basketball, we can go for another 30 minutes. You know that. So, that is the rumor right now. The Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. As I said, it's probably nothing's going to get done. You know it ain't. They got to stretch this out, and they're going to. So, we'll mull over it. We'll talk about it. We'll get frustrated about it, and we'll move on. So, that's what it is. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.